Hello and welcome back to another FPL team selection video. We are back to our regular uploads. I'm just back today from a fantastic week in Dubai and we are ready to start recording some videos again. So we're here with our team selection. This is why it's late, because I didn't want to pre-record this just in case anything happened. So it is coming out on Saturday morning very early on, so at least those of you who do want to see the team before the deadline can. So this is what we're doing tonight. Now, in terms of how it went last week, it was a bit of a disappointing week again. Obviously our two transfers last week were very upsetting. We moved Saliba on to bring in Trent Alexander-Arnold. Saliba ended up keeping a clean sheet against Spurs, and then obviously Trent conceded a goal to Nottingham Forest and only picked up 1 point. And then our other transfer was Solanke on to João Pedro, and then as the lineups came out, it got announced that João Pedro was injured after picking up a knock in international duty, so he never even played whatsoever. So he got auto subbed out, and I believe it was Mikolenko who ended up coming in and ended up getting a 1 pointer anyway, and then he ended up coming off injured as well after like the 36th minute or something like that. So pretty disappointing. Once again, it was basically Haaland that carried the entire week. Only a 54-point week for me. And again, when you're looking at like the defence, there's a lot of 1 and 2 pointers in there. Very, very disappointing with a lot of those guys. Finally though, Bruno Fernandes finally got himself a return. He picked up an assist, which was nice. So hopefully we can see that again against Crystal Palace this week before we smash that wildcard button in game week 6. And then obviously Smith Rowe as well, picking up a nice 7-pointer as well, one of the best of the week, followed by Saka, who also picked up a 7-pointer. I believe it was an assist he got and a couple of the bonus points, which was nice. Jota, a big disappointment again. He's actually not in the predicted lineups as well to play against Bournemouth this weekend, so that is going to be a little bit of an issue, something that could end up being a bit of a problem for me, especially considering a lot of people have now brought in Salah after trying the Jota experiment, which hasn't really worked out. And then obviously Isak as well, another player who only picked up a 1-pointer, and I believe he came off injured as well. I think it was at like half time, just after half time he came off injured. So we're waiting. We kind of have some news on him, so we're kind of just trying to figure out what to do with all these players now, because there's a lot of flags in this team which we're just about to look at. But yeah, so João Pedro, obviously our transfer, definitely didn't work. Trent didn't work either, so that's 2 transfers down the drain. We're now moving on to our team for this week. So this is how it's looking for this week. Again, as I said, I'm just back from Dubai. I'm recording this quite late on Friday night. I don't want to, I don't really have time to be able to make loads of graphics for this, so we do just have the team on screen today. And as you can see, we have 3 flags now. Mikolenko, Isak and João Pedro are the 3 players here that are a little bit of an issue. Now, starting off with Isak, we have on screen from Eddie Howe's press conference that it was only a knock to his foot, and they're hoping that it's not going to be too bad, and hopefully he should be okay. Now, we do know that Eddie Howe has a bit of a reputation for just lying in press conferences, so whether that's good news or not, we're not going to be sure until we actually see the lineups for the Newcastle game. Now, for me, I'm pretty optimistic. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world, and again, I'm really hoping that Isak is going to be fit for this game against Fulham. Again, it's not the best fixture in the world. It is a decent fixture against Fulham, but not something like you absolutely want to have Isak fit for this game. So a lot of people are transferring him out for this week to then bring in someone like an Ollie Watkins playing against Fulham at home, which on paper I guess you could say is a more favourable fixture. Now with João Pedro, we do have Hurzeler coming out and saying that they're not going to take any risks on him. Now, he was back in training Friday afternoon, Friday morning, so that is a good sign for him. But whether he's going to be playing, is he going to play 90 minutes? I think it's pretty unlikely. Is he going to start again? We don't really know. Now, I think I would be more confident in Isak playing than Pedro based on the press conferences, but as I said, Eddie Howe is pretty much known for lying in those press conferences, so it's a bit of a a tough situation because both of them obviously have a slight injury, and we don't really. I wouldn't expect any of them, to be honest, to play the full 90 minutes, which isn't ideal for two of your three strikers, of course. And then the other one is Erling Haaland, who is playing against Arsenal. Now with Mykolenko, he was confirmed to have an illness, and he's supposed to be totally fine. So that yellow flag on him should be totally fine. I don't think there's going to be any problems with him, and I think the fact that he's playing against Leicester away from home means that I think I definitely should be starting him, because Everton are coming into a nice run of fixtures, and I'm hoping, considering I've had Mykolenko since the start, that he's going to be able to pick up some points for me, because the only thing I've had from him so far is a price drop, and he's really been picking up 1 or 2 points in every single game, and Everton have looked really poor defensively, which isn't ideal. Now at least I know with the yellow flags with my two strikers, I do still have Robinson on the bench against Newcastle. Now it is definitely a pretty difficult fixture, especially when you're talking about hopefully Isak scoring against Fulham. Obviously you wouldn't expect Robinson to be keeping a clean sheet in that sense. Obviously it's two players going against each other, but if for example Isak isn't going to play, if he's not going to be fit, if Pedro again isn't in the squad for Brighton, at least I do have a decent backup in Robinson coming in for them. Now in terms of bringing in a replacement, I do still have one transfer in the bank. Obviously one transfer has come in, and there's three options that we really can look at here. Now we're basically looking, I would be looking to take out Isak because we just brought João Pedro in last week. He has a not a favourable fixture. We know how good Nottingham Forest can be in terms of a defensive side, but it's probably more favourable of a fixture than Isak has, with it being a home fixture. Now obviously Isak's more expensive and we can bring in a better replacement as well. So the three popular picks this week at striker for me are going to be Nicholas Jackson, Ollie Watkins and Jamie Vardy. Now obviously with me using a wild card next week, this is only a 1 week punt, so I am pretty hesitant on trying to make this transfer because I think I could potentially just hope that all of my players play, and then save that transfer till after the wild card and try roll that on. But in terms of bringing in one of these three guys, kind of trying to compare them, who the best one to bring in this week, we're looking at Nicholas Jackson, Watkins and Vardy. Now in terms of goals and assists, Jackson and Watkins are leading the way, just with an extra assist. You know, it's very close in terms of goals and assists between these three. However, in terms of expected goal involvement, I think there's a big difference between Jackson, Watkins and then Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy is only at 1.5 expected goal involvement so far, and you can see just below as well with his shots, he's only had 3 shots all season as well, so that's not really ideal for someone who is a very popular pick. I believe he's actually the second most transferred player in this week. Now for me, I think I'm really just looking to avoid him. I know as a 1 week punt it seems like a decent move, especially with the Everton fixture. You can see again with the stats on screen, Everton are the second worst defence in terms of XG this season. I just think with, like, again, only 3 shots so far in the 4 games he's played isn't really the best of things. And then of course you're looking at Watkins, who's got almost double his expected goal involvement. Now Jackson isn't too far behind Watkins, he's at 2.5 to Watkins 2.9. And then in terms of shots to shots on target, again Jackson's only had 1 less shot, same shots on target and just 1 less shot. Now in terms of the fixture, Jackson definitely has one of the more favourable fixtures. He's playing against West Ham, who are the 3rd worst defence in the league so far. And then Wolves don't really look like too bad a side. You know, they're sitting at 11th in terms of the expected goals ranking. So even though it is a home fixture, I think for me, if Jackson had a home fixture against West Ham, this would be a very easy decision to go for Nicholas Jackson over Ollie Watkins. But it is a bit more difficult considering it is an away fixture. However, when we move over to the chances conceded, again we obviously want to look down the middle for these teams because that's obviously where these 3 strikers operate. Again, very close. You know, Watkins and Jackson are going to be pretty similar. You know, Wolves have 34 chances conceded down the middle and West Ham have 37 chances conceded down the middle. Now obviously the way these chances are converted is going to be different, which is why West Ham are considered a fairly worse defence than Wolves are. So I think based on those chances, I do pretty much prefer Jackson slightly than Ollie Watkins. He is obviously a little bit cheaper as well, which doesn't really make a massive difference when I'm using the wild card and probably getting rid of them anyways in the next round. But for me, I think right now I do like Jackson would be the forefront to replace Isak. However, when we look at the current team which I've got, you'll notice there's no captaincy armband anywhere. It's because I haven't really found a good captaincy. Obviously, a lot of people are probably going to be sticking the captaincy armband on Salah this week. If you watched this week's captaincy video for game week 5, I did say I think Cole Palmer could be the best option, with Nicholas Jackson being a very, very good backup if you have him. Now, for me, again, I'm looking at probably Trent as a decent option here. Now, my predicament this game week is, do I use a transfer for one game week only to bring in Nicholas Jackson and then captain him against West Ham, or do I save that transfer to use after my wild card so I can build them up a little bit after the wild card's used in game week 6, and then just captain Trent Alexander-Arnold against Bournemouth? So looking at them both combined, Jackson isn't really favoured in terms of like the stats, as much as he looks pretty decent. You know, I think his XG is currently sitting 4th in the entire league. I believe he's behind Haaland, Visa and Watkins. I want to say, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's right. In terms of like up against Trent this week, Trent seems to be leading in most of the stats. Now, Liverpool are top for clean sheet odds this week. They're sitting at a 37% chance. So if there's any time to try and back a Liverpool clean sheet, this is where it is. Now, obviously, Trent is very attacking as well. So if Trent's going to pick up a clean sheet and an attack in return, that would be a very, very nice captaincy haul. Now, West Ham are also pretty low. You know, they're sitting at 16. They're sitting at 16th for clean sheet odds, so they're the 5th worst in terms of trying to keep a clean sheet this week. However, in terms of like return chances, expected points and stuff, Trent is very much ahead of Nicholas Jackson. Now, again, I need to consider the fact that I would be using a transfer to bring in Nicholas Jackson. So looking at them both against each other, Trent is kind of the one who looks a little bit better of a captaincy option on paper. So I do think, with that being said, I'm just going to save the transfer this week. I do really, really like the prospect of Nicholas Jackson as a captaincy this week. And if I had already picked him, for example, if I'd went for him in for Solanke last week instead of João Pedro, I would definitely be putting the armband on him. But I think just trying to save that transfer and building them up after the wild cards used in game week 6 is going to be much more valuable than bringing Jackson in this week just to captain him. So we're going to be sticking the armband on Trent Alexander-Arnold, and we're going to be rolling this week. So this is how the team is looking. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe if you are new, and let me know who you are putting your captaincy armband on this week. Mainly if you don't have Salah, because I want to know who people are captaining this week if you're going against Salah. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.